for another 5-minute murder. We got no timer. Thanks, Mary, no timer. She keeps making fun of me because my last two 5-minute murders have been closer to 10 minutes than 5 minutes. But, hey, we got good topics talking about things that we're passionate about. So we're going to select a card real quick. We're going to get started with this 5-minute murder tonight. We'll see who we get. Oh, boy. So tonight, we got the Son of Sam, David Berkowitz. And I got to show you some extra stuff I have around the room that's really, really cool. Speaking of old Son of Sam. All right, David Berkowitz was born June 1st, 1953. He is still alive, still in prison, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But he murdered 6 people in New York City in 1967 through 1976 through 77. Sorry about that. Claiming he was driven by demons. Berkowitz attempted to murder a woman on December of 1975, but she survived several stab wounds. He then murdered a woman in July of 1976. And over the next year, he attacked several couples, claiming 5 more victims. During his killing spree, he sent letters to New York newspapers, signing them the Son of Sam, a reference to a demon he believed lived inside the black Labrador retriever owned by his neighbor Sam Carr. So, I think David Berkowitz is a fascinating story because there is now a lot of talk that he was not the only son of Sam, or that he even did it at all, or maybe he was controlled by a group of people that wanted him to go around and cause all this havoc within the community. I don't know how true all that stuff is. And I'll tell you, I've watched the documentary Sons of Sam, and I don't find a lot of credibility in it. It's an interesting theory, but I don't know. I think that Berkowitz confessed to it early on. Later on, he says that it wasn't true. I don't know. But what I have to tell you is right behind me, right here, is David Berkowitz's current Bible tract, right? It's called Son of Hope, the David Berkowitz story, right? And he goes in to talk about maybe he was a devil child. It says, David started to read the Bible, returning from a stint in the army following high school. I met some people in the occult, and he started to read the Satanic Bible. And it seemed like it turned him down a dark path, and that he was giving in to deceiving spirits. He started fire starting because he believed that Molech was talking to him. And then he said that one fateful evening in 76, the killing spree began on a quiet corner in the Bronx. So I'm going to take this off the wall so you guys can see it a little closer, right? Sorry, the light behind it. But this is one of his current Bible tracts. And on the back of it, it talks about all of the killings, right? So he talks about, the Son of Sam case was an evil demonic mess, that he was also known as the 44 caliber killer, and how he got arrested. And then it talks about how he became a Christian. And he is now a pastor, calls himself the Son of Hope, and is preaching in prison. And if you write David Berkowitz now, he will not talk about the crimes. He will only talk about Christianity. And it's a very, very fascinating story of a guy that during his youth and when he was younger, really, really gave in to whatever those dark desires that he had were, and killed several people, tried to kill another person. And to take that away and to say that, he was, maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was more than one person because some of the sketches look different. Here's the truth about sketches and about eyewitness people. everybody sees everything differently, right? We could watch somebody get shot, and because of stress and because of how our body reacts to it and how our mind reacts to it, we could be looking at the same exact event and see completely different things and pick out completely different things about that specific event. You think about going to a basketball game and watching it. Do you remember who sat next to you? Could you describe them? You might describe them one way, another person would describe them a completely different way, right? So, it is not always the best testimony to have an eyewitness, right? Because they're not always correct. They often get it wrong. And people just see things completely differently. And I think that that's a lot what happened in the David Berkowitz thing, but they're really, really using that to say that maybe there were more than one person. I don't think that that's the case. I got to show you another thing that's really cool, and it's over here, but I'll grab it real quick. This here, if you guys can see what that is a piece of a bush. And that bush is one of the bushes that David Berkowitz hid behind when he shot one of his victims and the police came, right? He hid behind this bush. And a buddy of mine, Paul Gambino, wrote a book about murderabilia. I can't think of where it's at right now. Actually, it's in my bin because I carry it with me to conventions, right? If you see me at a convention, you can come and see it. But anyway, when he was doing his book, one of the things that he gave away was a piece of the cutting of one of the bushes that Berkowitz hid behind. And I ended up winning it. So I have a piece of bush that Berkowitz hid behind. So just fascinating, the things that we have and collect. I would have never gotten that any other way. But yeah, David Berkowitz believed that the dog was telling him to kill. That's not much different from another guy, and maybe we'll talk about him at some point on here. Maybe we'll draw him out of there because he's in there. But now I can't think of his name because I'm thinking of Richard Chase. It wasn't Richard Chase. Herbert Mullen, right? Herbert Mullen was a guy who believed that God was telling him to kill people, and that if he didn't kill them, if he did kill them, he would stop the earthquakes, right? This is no different than that, right? Where you're hearing these voices, whether it's schizophrenia that is causing that you believe that you're having these autonomic hallucinations, where you're hearing these people telling you to do things and then you follow through with it. But yeah, David Berkowitz is very much a story about that. When you get into psychology, he's seeing these things. Now, did he really hear that stuff? I don't know. Did he kill those people? For sure he did. And he admitted to it. So I don't believe that he didn't do it. I believe for sure he did. But it is a fascinating story nonetheless. And old David Berkowitz, now a preacher, the son of hope, send him a message. Get one of his Bible tracts. They're really cool. I got one and framed it because I think it's really neat. And I think that he admits to doing it in the Bible tract, which is amazing to me. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for another 5-Minute Murder, a little Berkowitz style. Don't listen to your dog. If your dog is telling you to kill people, don't listen to the dog. See you guys next week for another 5-Minute Murder.
Мою руку, хочу тебя потерять. Уходи, хватит мучить, устал себя разрушать. Много мыслей, нету сути в голове, сложно пытать.
This looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me, 'cause we need a little controversy.